Welcome to another Quantum Conversation. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, beautiful hearts. We have another episode in our Quantum Conversation Summit series, Timelines, Creating the Highest Benevolent Outcome. And today we are with Morry Zelcovitch. He is talking to us about the brain, brainwave entrainment, and we're going to learn how this is related to creating the highest optimal outcomes from our timelines. Let's welcome Morry Zelcovitch to this show. Hi, Morry. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. This is always really exciting when we talk about the brain and brainwave entrainment and literally changing our timelines, changing our reality by focusing on the brain. So as we get started, how would you relate creating timelines to brainwave entrainment?
Actually, for me, it's very simple. They go hand in hand. As a matter of fact, I believe the brain to be the central processing unit, if you want to make a computer equivalent of your life. In other words, processes occur in the brain that create neural pathways. They create neural activity, brainwave activity, and brainwaves create neural chemistry. So depending on neurons or what build your brain, they literally are the cell structure of your brain. What happens is that as we think, as we process information, as we perceive things, we create brainwave activity. And depending on the region of the brain that the neuron is in and how many times it pulses an electric impulse in a second, that dictates the kind of state it's in. So you've probably heard of alpha, beta, theta, delta, gamma. These are just rates of speed that the neuron is pulsing in. And depending on how many times it pulses again and the location, that dictates the kind of chemistry it produces, the things like neurotransmitters, endorphins, and hormones. And that is basically what makes a recipe to your perception. So if you're happy, if you're sad, if you're excited, if you're bored, or anything in between, that is the result of your neural chemistry that is allowing you to feel that way. So when we're talking about timelines, it literally creates a timeline for you. And if you're not happy with the timeline you're in, you can recreate that simply by altering your brainwave activity, which then alters your chemistry, which then alters your perception and behavior.
That is so interesting. Okay, and so then altering the brain waves. We can do this on our own, but it's also great to have some assistance as well that help us recognize this. So when we're talking about the quantum mind method, this is a program that you've developed and
Yes.
brainwave entrainment that you've developed. Let's start with your story. Can you share with us how you came into this field of research and work?
Sure. I'm 62 years old. I spent the first 40 odd years of my life wanting to be dead. From
Mm,
the very beginning of my conscious awareness till my mid 40s, probably.
wow.
Uh, I have 6 suicide attempts that I'm aware of. There may have been more. Multiple injuries, like thousands of injuries, quite literally. I know that sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I lost track. So maybe it's hundreds, but I lost track. It's an interesting life to have when you want to be dead, but at the same time, you're afraid to die.
Mhm.
It's a bit of a conundrum there. And when I realized that I couldn't end my life because after 6 tries and not succeeding, that's pretty much a hint that I don't really want to die. When I realized I couldn't find a way to die, I had to find a way to live. And that's really what got me started. So I tried the usual suspects in the beginning: drug addiction, alcoholism, sex addiction, all the fun stuff. All of those made my life much worse. And it's funny because I didn't think it could get worse, and yet it got much worse. Then I thought, well, that's not really helping me. Maybe I need professional help. So I saw doctors and clinicians and psychiatrists and psychologists, coaches. They didn't help either, especially back in those days. They didn't give pills for everything. I'm sure if I had been that way now and reached out for help, I'd be medicated like crazy. But they didn't medicate. They said, actually, Morry, you seem to be coping really well. There's really not much we can do for you. I guess failing to kill myself is coping well. At least
Wow.
it was considering what they were thinking at the time anyway.
And that year, that must have been what, at the turn of the century then, somewhere around there, or
Oh no, this was for 40 years. This wasn't 1 year. This was 40 years of this.
oh, for 40 years. And so no therapists were recommended. Well, I guess if they recommended therapists, you'd still be in therapy.
Yeah, I tried all these things, just nothing worked.
Hmm.
And then I decided that, well, maybe I need to try strange stuff. So I reached out to things like hypnosis and meditation and EMDR and breathing techniques and tapping techniques. And there's literally thousands of variations of all these things. And I'm pretty sure I tried most of them. I don't think I tried them all. I don't know if that's possible, but I did try most of them. And again, nothing helped. Nothing made any difference. Every time I'd get a little hope, I'd go up and then I'd fly right down again when it didn't help. I went from what I call deep depression into super depressions. And that happened on a regular basis. I heard thousands of voices in my head all the time. That was my life from conscious awareness till that moment in time. Like you're in a crowd, thousands of people at a sporting event or at a concert, and you're in the intermission. So they're just all talking. That's kind of what I heard. Pain all the time, psychological pain all the time, physical pain all the time. Again, nothing helping. And I figured, well, I'm just trying everything I can. I'm trying supplements, I'm trying techniques, I'm trying this, I'm trying that. Nothing's helping me. And I'm just getting more and more depressed because I can't end my life. I used to wake up every morning. I used to stand on my bed and open the curtains, cross my fingers, and wish I would see mushroom clouds because mushroom clouds would kill me. I wouldn't have a choice, right? I wouldn't have any control over that. I also had an affirmation, which I still think is very Hallmark greeting cardish in a very black, dark way. Life is a disease for which there is no cure but death. That's how I felt. That's what I repeated to myself over and over and over and over and over again, every single day for the better part of 40 years. I eventually thought, just randomly trying stuff isn't helping me. Maybe I need to educate myself. Maybe I need to learn what's going on here. Because remember, I don't have any choice, right? I'm just suffering and suffering and suffering. I had to try to find something. And it came to me that maybe I need to study the brain and the mind and psychology. So I went to what I call the paper internet. Can you guess what that is?
Encyclopedias,
Close. Library.
libraries.
Yeah, because they didn't have the internet back in those days. And I started studying things like neurochemistry and quantum physics and psychology and sociology and perception and pretty much anything I could find, any discipline I could find that had anything to do with perception and behavior. I figured if I understood what was happening to me, maybe that would help. Well, as I'm studying things like quantum physics and brain chemistry and behavior, I'm kind of putting some things together in my head. And this is all self-trained. I mean, I do have an honors degree in psychology from York University in Toronto and a minor in sociology. But most of what I learned as more or less a current understanding through my library work. And it struck me that my brain, because I had all these horrible thoughts all the time, they were creating brainwave activity that was then creating these horrible chemistry that made me experience life the way I did. So I started reading books like Deepak Chopra, Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, Oprah Winfrey, all the biggies. And none of those helped me either. I think the problem with them was not that they had a problem, but that I thought by following their protocols, I would change, not realizing at the time that people can only write something in terms of their own experience. And I needed to adjust and adapt and reinterpret everything to make it mine first if I wanted to hope it would work for me. I actually think this is something all self-improvement people should put in the front of every single one of their recordings or videos or books or webinars. A little disclaimer that says, by the way, I can only really talk for myself. So if
Mm.
anything I say resonates with you, reimagine it, reinterpret it, translate it into your own language, and then and only then might it work for you. And with clients now, I actually have a story. Tony Robbins is a big, tall guy, right? So let's call his suit his course for the sake of this story. So whenever I say suit, I'm actually talking about his course. So I go to one of his talks and I go up on his stage and I say, "Hey, Tony, I want to buy your suit." And he goes, "Sure, Morry, Venmo me 10 grand and the suit is yours." And again, I'm talking about his course. So he gives me his suit. I give him my money. I go home and I try it on. And I'm going to look like a 6-year-old trying on dad's clothes because I'm not as tall as he is. I'm not as broad shouldered as he is. I mean, I'm just going to look like terrible. But if I take his suit and I go to a tailor and I get measured and I say, "Hey, I love this suit, but it's way too big. Can you please tailor it to fit me?" The person goes, "Sure, come back in a week." I come back in a week. I go home. I try it on. Fits like a glove. Beautiful. Moral of the story, I can only talk for myself. Tony Robbins can only talk for himself. Oprah Winfrey can only talk for herself. If you are inspired by what they say, if you are, inspired to take action based on what they say, first you need to tailor what they say and what they teach for you, because otherwise it's not going to fit. And that, I believe, is why most self-help doesn't work. Not because the intentions are bad or because they're trying to rip you off, but simply because there's that one little step, that one little paragraph that would make all the difference. And I think if everybody did that in front of everything they say, that would really make all the difference in the world. And then people would start succeeding at a much higher rate with anybody's system, because I think good intentions go a long way. But people need to realize that just because someone's rich, just because someone's famous, it doesn't necessarily mean that what they did is going to work for you. And I think if we all just kind of realize that I'm not the same person, I'm not as tall, I'm not as famous, I didn't have his parents, I didn't wear his clothes, I didn't have his lunch. There's
Mhm.
so many differences. To think that I'm a failure because I tried his protocol and it didn't help me, that's not fair to me. It's not fair to him either. But I think it's incumbent on those of us who are in the self-help business to identify that feature to everyone as we're presenting our thoughts, our beliefs, our understandings, because then I think we give people that last little bit of secret sauce, which of course is them. They're their own secret sauce, in my view. And it allows them to realize that that's how we get lucky. That's how we succeed. That's why so few people succeed. That's why people go to Tony Robbins events all the time. That's why people buy every book every time Oprah comes out with it. When you think about it, if these things really worked, why would people just have a collection of Oprah books or a collection of my systems for that matter? If it's not working, it's not working. Don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. Anyway, I'll get off my little,
I love what you shared there. I know we're going to go on and learn more about how you develop this, but what you're speaking of is really important because it removes what happens is as we go on this journey, we embark on this journey, we're always looking outside of ourselves for someone or something or someplace to assist us, to help us. But what you're saying is by integrating it within our own values and tailoring it to fit our needs based on what we resonate with, that's really, gosh, this is really what becomes our truth. When we ourselves can experience something, that becomes our truth. And so it's our responsibility to say, okay, that worked for me, that didn't. So I love that aspect. And that's an important thing for everyone to remember. We have a lot of teachers and healers and light workers on this program who are watching. And that's really good advice to remind people that they're the hero. They're the hero of their life. We are just the facilitators because we've walked through it. We've walked through it so we can help them. But ultimately, they're going to be the ones who's the hero, not us. So we're not looking for other heroes. Each of our clients are not looking for another hero. Sometimes they may come to us and say, "You're my hero. I love you." But that's really important to say, and I'm glad that you said that. So thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem. Thank you. So I just felt that I needed to go off on that little tangent because I don't want people to think because I have a deep authoritative news voice that they should believe every word I say either.
Mm,
You know, it's more important to resonate and then recreate in your own image. But
right.
so doing all of this and getting all of this information and what I call current understanding, because I don't know anything. I personally don't believe in truth or fact. So by not believing truth or fact, it keeps my mind open. I found for me, and I'm not speaking for anyone else here, but for me, when I believed in something, it made me stop thinking.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
Well, for me, it turned out it was because, and again, I can only speak for myself. So, I can't speak for you or anybody else. But for me, it stopped me from thinking. I believe in this, so I don't think about it anymore because why should I? I believe in it. That's a waste of energy. If I already have milk in the fridge, why should I buy more milk? I already have it. What do I need it for? So I just didn't think. When I considered things as a current understanding, that's what made my mind open up to possibilities. So when I tried brainwave entrainment, eventually when I came across it, it seemed to check all the boxes. It was really there. And I thought, finally, I'm going to feel like a human being. Finally, when I smile, I'm going to mean it. Finally,
Mhm.
when I laugh, I'm going to mean it. Finally, when I'm in love, I'm actually going to feel like I'm in love as opposed to just saying it. But it didn't do anything either. It didn't help. However, there was a nagging feeling in the back of my head that said it should. And I kept trying all these different varieties and still nothing, still nothing, still nothing. And one day I just woke up and I realized maybe I'm going through all of this for 40 years for a reason. Maybe it's because I'm supposed to evolve this stuff and I'm supposed to take it to the next level. So I did that. I reinvented the wheel. I recreated a recording, a single recording in my own image with my own weird ideas and thoughts. And I took a month to try it. The first 2 weeks, I was getting over what if it doesn't work? Because to me, it was the last hope I had. Kind of like that scene in Star Wars where you're our last hope, Obi-Wan. I literally could see myself there. This is my last hope. And then the second 2 weeks, I didn't listen because I thought, what if it does work? What's it going to do? Is it going to make things worse? Eventually, I said I had to do something. So I tried it. And it felt like it did nothing, absolutely nothing. It was half-hour recording, felt like half an hour. All the weird stuff I did it, but I didn't feel tingling. I didn't feel like I was spaced out. Nothing felt different until 5 minutes later when I started hearing the voices coming back. And that was the very first time in my life that I never heard the voices. Every second of every minute of every point in my life, I heard voices like, "Wah, wah, 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 wah," all the time. This time, nothing. And 5 minutes later, when they started coming back, that's when I noticed they were gone.
Mhm.
And that told me that I was onto something. Interestingly enough, though, before the voices came back, I was so disappointed. I was like feeling like I'm going to go into one of my super depressions. And I didn't. I thought to myself, oh, it didn't work. I'm so screwed. There's nothing I can do. I'm just going to have to live the rest of my life like this. And then a voice came into my head. This was one voice, not a group of voices, one voice. And the voice said, what did you expect? Did you really think one 30-minute listening is going to change your life after 40 years? My depressive self said, Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And I didn't get depressed or super depressed. I didn't even realize that was a sign that it worked and was helping me till 20 years later, 25 years later. That's when I noticed that particular aspect. But I noticed the voices right away, like 5 minutes into it. And I knew I was into something. And when I realized that, I created an entire system around it. And interestingly enough, that system is the basis for the quantum mind method. And now I have like 34 systems. I'm getting ready to launch another 10 in the area of peak performance. I have every one of them is unique and proprietary techniques and technologies I've invented. I'm working on over 50 others right now. I can't stop getting ideas. So I'm grateful that I was depressed for 40 years. I'm grateful that I was miserable. Go figure that one out. I'm grateful for the wanting to be dead. I'm grateful for all of that because without it, I wouldn't be who I am today and I wouldn't be who I'm going to be tomorrow. And I absolutely love not knowing what's coming. I don't know what word's going to come out of my mouth in another second. I don't know anything. And I love that because I spent 40 years knowing what was coming. I was like the Nostradamus of my universe. Misery, pain, anguish, depression, hate, spite. You name anything negative. That's what I felt. And that's what I knew was coming every minute, every hour, every day. Now I don't know anything. I have no idea. I mean, I don't believe in truth or fact, so I truly don't know anything. But I'm in a state now where I'm like a little kid going into a new room. Where's the light switch? I want to see what's here. I want to see what's here because I don't know what's coming next. And when I knew what was coming next, it was miserable. Now that I don't know what's coming next, it's exciting. Back then, I did this,
Mhm.
right? Now I'm doing this. And it's all because I've altered my brain waves. I've altered how they function over time so that all the negativity, all the pain, all the hatred, all the spite, all the bad things aren't bad anymore. Now they're learning experiences. So if I see something as bad, the first thing I think of is, what am I not seeing here? What am I not learning here? Do we have time for a quick story?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you. I was about 5 or 6 years old, maybe even a little, yeah, about 5 or 6. And I played hooky from school. And I was sitting in front of the TV. My mom had me with some tea and water, and because she thought I was sick, of course, because I pretended to be sick. I was bored, really, really bored. So I went into the kitchen. And my mom was cooking. She had things on all four burners, and she's talking to my aunt on the phone. She's busy, and I'm nagging her, so I'm tugging on her. Mommy, mommy, play with me. I'm bored. I'm bored. I'm bored. And she's going, honey, go into the other room, lie down. You're sick. You need to rest, and you need to get better. I, of course, didn't listen to her. Why would I? So I noticed on the stovetop, though, back in those days, the elements were raised above the level of the stove itself. And I noticed the element, and it was like glowing yellow and red and blue and purple and all these cool colors. It was like a lava lamp, it was just very hypnotically changing color. And, my mom was moving pots around and she left one of them on and the pot was off the element. And I started reaching out to touch it. Why? I'm not the smartest bulb in the array. I'm trying to touch this thing because it's just fascinating me. And my mom saw and she said, honey, don't do that. You'll burn yourself. Beautiful, loving, tender, gentle voice, right? This happened 6 or 7 more times. Each time I didn't listen. Each time I would reach out again. Each time she would get a little bit more forceful, a little bit angrier until the second last time. So this should tell you what's going to happen. The second last time I reach out and she slaps my hand and yells at me, don't do that. You'll burn yourself. Like anger and fear and everything. I, of course, am an idiot. I reach in one more time. She didn't catch me this time. I had rings. on my hand. It was agony for like weeks, maybe months. I couldn't, if I bent my hand even a little, torture. It was horrible. So, what's the moral of the story? Moral of the story is the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, loves you. You love you. The unconscious, subconscious part of your mind loves you. And it tries to teach you things. At least this is my understanding. Okay. So I'm saying you, but I don't mean to impose my views on anyone. So the universe was trying to teach me something. I wasn't listening. My mom was trying to teach me something. I wasn't listening. The more I didn't listen, the less I got the lesson, the louder and more painful the message got until it saw the only way this idiot's going to learn is if he feels horrible pain. That's what the universe was teaching me. That's what my mom was teaching me. Now, as I said, instead of doing this, where I'm turning a blind eye and a blind ear, I'm leaning forward and I'm going, what am I not learning here? That is a valuable thing to learn, but I'm not getting. And because I'm not getting it, the universe is saying, I don't care how stupid you are, Morry. I am going to get this through your thick skull. So now I lean forward and I learn. I don't believe in bad things anymore. I don't even think sickness or injury or disease is bad. I'm recovering from a knee injury for 4 months now. I'm still recovering. The doctor said 6 weeks. It's 4 months and I'm still recovering. I still have to bring a cane with me every time I go somewhere because if I walk too much, I can't walk anymore with the weight and I have to use a cane. Lessons to be learned. What am I not learning? What have I not learned? That's what I look for now. I'm looking for the lesson in everything. And I believe my current understanding says that if something we qualify as bad is happening to us, that's really what's happening. It's that we're ignoring a lesson. So I believe that once we learn those lessons, the so-called bad luck just disappears. The so-called pain just goes away. This is my current understanding. 5 minutes from now, Lauren, you could say something as soon as I shut up, which I will do in a second because I've been going on and on and on. And it'll change everything I just said because I don't know anything. I love not knowing anything. As a scientist, I think that is the best way for me to be because if I try to prove something, I've got a preconceived notion. I'm saying I know something and I'm trying to prove it. I know nothing. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to get a better understanding. That's all.
Well, that is very advanced on the journey because spiritual teachers will tell us act childlike, be curious. And as I was saying earlier, your experience of the hot pan, regardless of your mother or other people saying, don't do that, it's going to hurt you, that became your truth. Your experience of it became your truth. And so it's almost like when we're talking about the ascension journey and people on this journey, so many of us will withhold information because we don't want to hurt someone, or we want to help them get through their own troubled times because we don't want to see them suffer. But we cannot be that person that prevents someone's own awakening. Like what you're saying is everyone has to walk through it and discern and experience this for themselves. So your approach and your attitude and your perspective is very important. And I think that if all of us keep that, when we're dealing with our clients or even anything in our own life, it's really important. So we can lean into our pain then, really, right? We can lean into it. So thank you for sharing that. So the quantum mind method, it's one of the programs that you've created. Congratulations on
Thank you.
the huge volume of work that you're putting out. I wanted to say that when you heard that voice that says, why would you think it would work? Have you contemplated that? Was that your higher self or your soul speaking at you? And have you heard that voice as you're on your journey creating these programs?
I think that voice creates the programs.
Mhm.
I think I have a big mouth, which I've probably proven to every single person who's going to hear this. And the universe or whatever it is that I'm channeling said, "Ooh, big loud voice. People might actually listen to him. Maybe we should give him something worthwhile to say." So I get the feeling sometimes the ideas just come to me. Often speaking with people like yourself, you'll say something and it'll trigger a thought in my head. I come up with ideas all the time. And it's not because I think I'm coming up with them. I think I'm just open. I have a belief system, even though, a current belief system, that if I'm open and I don't close my mind, then ideas will come to me when they're supposed to come to me.
That's
And yeah,
beautiful.
and I just trust in that. And it seems to work because, people ask me, yeah, but Morry, you say you're working on 50 plus things right now. Isn't that distracting? Like, don't you think you should be focusing on one and then you move on to another and then move on to another? And I say, well, look, I'm not working on 50 things at the same time. But think about it. Let's look at the case of a writer. We've all
Mhm.
heard of writer's block. So you're writing a novel or a book or a text or whatever, and you hit a block. You hit a wall. You can't go anywhere. It's frustrating. So I'm going to take a walk in the country. I'm going to do something to try to, free up my mind. Maybe now I'm going to suggest a few things to AI and maybe it can help me get over the hump. But really, what it came down to for me wasn't any of that. It was really a matter of, hey, I hit a wall here. No big deal. I'll move on to the next one. Wall, next one. Wall, next one. One, the next one, I go a little ways and then I hit another wall. Next one, next one, next one. I don't get stuck on anything because I have too many things that I can go to. So, oh, I'm stuck here. No big deal. And usually by the time I make the circuit and I come back to the initial one that I was stuck on, I've learned things by working on the others that allow me to move forward on the first one. And I
Yeah,
don't always come up with a solution immediately, but I always come up with something, a different way of looking at it that helps me to move a little bit farther forward, inching forward, inching forward, inching forward.
you're really open. Like you're an open vessel. You're open to receive the information and you're not judging it
No,
because you
no.
are open. There's no judgment. And you
If
don't.
I judged, I'd be an idiot to judge because I don't know anything.
There you go. There, see, that is so key. Okay. Well, this is fascinating. And so it really reveals the creative process because there's something like when you get an idea and the ideas are out there, it doesn't come to just one person. It is, I believe it's the higher realms seeding ideas for humanity, and it's those who take the action on it. So you keep the ideas flowing, you're an open door for them, and you say, okay, so here's a block. I need to, it's almost like you're incubating it. You step away and you let it percolate, and then when you come back around, there's fresh ideas, or maybe you have dreams about it, right? There's
I
other
have no dreams,
you have no dreams
no
that
dreams.
you're aware of.
Well, I dream sometimes, but never about my work.
Ah,
I
interesting.
don't get any answers during sleep, which is interesting. Yeah, like you got guys like Edgar Casey and whatever who got everything in their dreams.
Einstein.
Tesla got answers in his dreams. Einstein got messages in his dreams. I get silliness or stuff.
Mm.
Or,
Okay, yeah, that's good.
you know, I
Uh,
don't get any answers in my dreams. They come to me in my waking hours, but I kind of feel like I'm in a perpetual state of meditation anyway.
because of this brainwave entrainment.
Yeah, I do it so often. I listen to a recording that goes for 55 minutes every night when I go to sleep. I
Wow.
listen to different recordings during the day. I'm always developing stuff, so I'm always testing stuff too. So I would say I'm using entrainment at least a couple hours every day. And the funny thing is, people say, "Yeah, but how do you get your work done because you're too busy, lying down?" Because literally, you lie down or you sit with head support, put on a pair of bone conduction headphones or ordinary over the ear stereo headphones, and you close your eyes and it happens automatically. There's no reading, there's no studying, there's nothing. It just happens automatically. Your brain does all the heavy lifting. The recordings are kind of like an exercise machine for your brain,
Wow.
and it just comes. So I think it's coming from somewhere else. I think other people, I do believe currently in the universal consciousness, we're all connected. I think, Lauren, if you're a little happier tomorrow when you wake up, I'm going to be a little happier too. Even
Mm.
if we don't talk, even if I don't see you, even if
Wow.
I don't know you. That's why I think it's important that when we hear of something that we might define as bad, like a tsunami or an earthquake or something, it's better not to feel bad for the people. It's better to send them love and positive energy. Because what about the people who are trapped or the people who are surviving, or even the families who have to deal with their lost loved ones? Those are the ones that aren't free. Those are the ones that need our energy. And sending sad energy, sending pity energy, sending tears, I don't think helps. And I feel the energy of people. I have an exercise that when I'm outside, I love playing. If I'm in a downtown core with lots of people, if I'm sitting or standing on a corner, I'll pick someone distance away and I'll just send them like positive, loving, smiling energy. And I can't tell you how many times that person, as they're walking by, they have this silly little grin on their face. And you can tell they have no idea why they feel that way. No clue, but they do. And it's nice. If I'm in an elevator, I'll crack a joke. I'll look at people. I don't look at my feet. I look at them. I comment. I make a little phrase. If I get a little bout of a humorous thing to say, I say it. I don't do this to be popular or to be nice. I do it because I'm open to whatever it takes. And I think we're all connected. I remember at the Science Center in Ontario when I was a kid, I was there and I took off from the school and I went into a theater and it had this beautiful girl on the film in a floral dress sitting in a field of daisies reading a book of poetry. And it started off on a few words on the book and it backing up, backing up, backing up, backing up. Eventually, it backed up. You only see the planet Earth. And then you only see the Milky Way galaxy. And then it zoomed back in afterwards. So it's showing perspective, right? This is the whole point, is teaching perspective. Well, it zoomed back in, but this time it didn't zoom in to the book. It went into her hand, right into her hand. And it stopped when we were standing next to one cell in the hand. We were so small that that cell was like 5 times the size we were, 10 times the size we were. We were standing next to it. And when we looked in every direction, you couldn't see anything else, just that one cell. Because we're held together with a field. We're not held together with glue. The reason why my finger doesn't go through is simple. It doesn't go through because the density of the cell structure here is equal to the density here. It doesn't pass through. If the density was different, then the finger passes through, right? So to me, it taught me something. It made a very strong effect that we all are part of the same being. That's an understanding I have, not a truth, not a fact, just an understanding that we're all part of the same being. The thing is, we're so small that we feel like, just like in the hand, you can't see the next cell over, but the next cell might be you, might be your friend, it might be some stranger who just walked by you. We're all part of the same being. This is going to sound very strange coming from a scientist, but I honestly think that the day we stop stealing from each other, the day we stop hating each other, this day we stop envying each other, the day we stop murdering and raping and beating each other and treating each other unfairly, I believe that day all disease is going to just disappear off the face of the earth. And no one is going to have any idea how or why. They're going to think it's a God came down to save us all. They're going to give it all kinds of meanings that don't make any sense. Not that that doesn't make sense, but to me, they're going to give it all kinds of meanings that are relative to how we think currently, not realizing that if I'm right and if we are part of the same being, we're just so small we don't see each other as being connected, then it's equally possible that disease, pain, anguish, all these things, mental and physical issues, are nothing more than a reflection of how we treat ourselves on a larger case. Look at cancer. Cancer is a cell that takes over other cells. It convinces them to join the fight and beat up other people and rape other people and destroy other people. That's what cancer does. It does that to cells. I believe all this stuff is just going to disappear when we finally evolve to the point where we aren't the way we are now. We're better than we were, but we're still far from where we need to be. And when we need to be there, it's just going to disappear because there'll be nothing to mirror.
Yes.
All
Well,
these thoughts come to me because I've been using brainwave entrainment. Some of you might be thinking, oops, I think he's using it too much.
I don't think that's possible. You're reflecting on levels of consciousness that people in the spiritual community on the ascension path feel and sense as well. This notion of oneness. We are all one. Well, what does that mean? You've put your scientific mind on it for your own understanding of it. So that right there, from that scientific perspective, shows that we are all one. We are all connected. It's invisible. And as you were talking about you sending that love to a random stranger, we've seen this in like an audience. Someone will be talking and say, okay, send this person negative thoughts, anger, hatred, fear, not nice thoughts. And they'll muscle test that person and the arm will be very weak. And
Yeah.
then the whole audience will do the opposite and send love and joy and happiness and peace. And that person will muscle test really strong. And so isn't that fascinating? You're talking about the morphogenic field, really. And that's a scientific level. So your research in quantum and the quantum field is giving you this perspective of this oneness that we are moving towards. So as we're talking about the brain and the brainwave entrainment, for those who are not familiar with what this is, what is your definition of brainwave entrainment? What is it? And how does listening to a recording going to entrain the brain? What is happening in that recording?
So, entrainment is simply the act of one system following another system in unison or in synchronicity. So, what we're doing is there's a feature of your brain, of everybody's brain, called the frequency following response. And if you don't believe you've had it, every single one of us has, in my view. Have you ever listened to music and you mindlessly are bopping your head, tapping your toes?
Oh, yes.
That's an example of entrainment. You're following the frequency, the drum beat, the music, and just mindlessly you're going with it. That's natural. That is an element of the frequency following response. What I'm doing is I'm taking that and I'm zoning it in specifically on your neurons, your brain cells, because again, they're the CPU, they're the central processing unit of your life. Without your brain creating neurochemistry to let you know what's happened, you won't experience it. You could slap me in the face. My head flies off to the side, flies back. If my brain doesn't create chemistry that acknowledges that happened, I won't know it happened. I won't even be aware that my eyes were now over here and saw this and came back. It's a physical feature of how our brains work, how our minds work. So when it comes to brainwave entrainment, it's simply, very, very simply, one thing following another thing. So we have like these and they're totally off. They're not following, but if they're next to each other fast enough and enough time, they start mimicking themselves. Now they're in sync. This is a process that was discovered in the 1600s by a clockmaker who had cuckoo clocks with pendulums. And he went to lunch, and all the pendulums were all over the place. And when he came back, all the pendulums were the same. Uh, Entrainment happens to women at that time of the month. It's noticed in schools when they're living in the same dorms that they tend to synchronize. This is something in nature, it happens anyway. We take advantage of that to influence brain activity, not to influence your thoughts, but to influence your chemistry so that we can bring you back to normal, natural states. When we were dwelling in caves and hunting and foraging, we actually had a much simpler life than we have now. Our brains and our bodies have evolved a great deal since then, but the basic functions and functionalities haven't really changed. So back in those days, we got panicky and we developed our, survival skills when we saw a saber-toothed tiger, when we saw a bear, when we saw, a dinosaur or whatever. So that's when we panicked. If someone died Like we were walking with them and they died next to you, you probably grunted and kept going because it's just something that happened. You didn't think about it. Disease didn't mean anything. Pain didn't mean anything. None of these things had any real meaning. There were none of the societal structures that give all this outside meaning to things. So it's reasonable to assume that we were probably in brain states, stable brain states for longer periods of time. We weren't worried about health. We weren't worried about war. We weren't worried about destruction. We weren't worried about anything bad because we didn't really think. We were like animals. We lived, we ate, we had sex. That's why, by the way, nature made sex feel good because we didn't know we needed to have sex to perpetuate the species. So we just did it because it felt good. And that's why nature does that. But when it push comes to shove, our brains are not allowed to achieve the stable brain states that they're designed to achieve. It's like a car engine being out of tune. So now, with brainwave entrainment, we give our brains the opportunity to go back into those stable states for longer periods of time. Instead of your brain being in a state for a few seconds here and there, and it only produces the limited chemistry because it's only in those states for a couple of seconds. Now your brain can maintain these states for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. That brings you not into a supernatural state or a supernatural state. It brings you back into a natural state, meaning now your brain has all the fluids it needs. It has all the chemicals it needs. In the talking like a car, it has all the power steering it needs. It has all the alternator juice. It has everything it needs. And you're able to cope better. You're able to deal better because your brain is put into a more natural state. That's what brainwave entrainment does. Putting on an ordinary pair of stereo headphones and closing your eyes or a pair of bone conduction like these, what that allows for is it allows the brain to go into these natural states without any effort. You don't have to learn a technique. You don't judge, did this work? Did this help? Am I supposed to feel this way? That's what I kept doing when I was trying to meditate or trying to be hypnotized or whatever, or tapping or any of these other things. I kept judging myself. Well, I don't feel anything. Why am I not feeling anything? Well, the more I questioned, the more I was holding back any possible benefits that these techniques allowed for. I was kind of fighting their effects, even though I didn't realize I was fighting because I was so desperate to feel something, to feel different. Brainwave entrainment, because of the frequency following response, it's an autonomic response. It happens whether you believe in it or not. It happens whether you want it to or not. If you're exposed to that kind of stimulation, it will put you there. And then you will get the associated benefits from that. I have doctors who use my systems to help people with Alzheimer's disease, PTSD, depression, anxiety, sleep disorder. When my parents were very, very sick before they left last year, my my wife told me that I was yelling and screaming in my sleep.
Mm.
And I was acting out. I was actually punching the air. And she told me a couple of times I hit her. That was it. I designed Good Night Sleep Well and I started using it. And from the very first day, no acting out, no yelling and screaming, and no bad dreams. Your brain is everything. Your mind is more than just your brain, but you have neurons, you have neurological cells in your brain, in your heart, and in your gut. Your whole body is connected. Just like I said with that girl in the movie I was watching, just because I'm so small that I'm only standing beside one cell doesn't mean there aren't billions of other cells there as well that I'm just not noticing, that I'm just not aware of because of where I am in the universe. So I encourage everybody to kind of take these stories of mine. Maybe you can relate to them, maybe you can't, but take them as an understanding that if you think about yourself instead of just accepting what other people tell you, I think that's when you're really going to be able to recreate and create the perfect timeline for yourself. And you'll know it's the perfect timeline because you'll feel good about it. It'll make you happy. That's why happy feels happy. You know, nothing is just there because it is there. Happy is there because it tells you you're doing and thinking the right thing. Sad is also something to be just as grateful for. It tells you you're doing or thinking the wrong thing.
Mm.
Pain is important. If I break my arm and it doesn't hurt, I may not go to a hospital to get it set. Then it might get infected. I might die. I might lose it. The pain makes me take action that's appropriate, so I do something to help myself. Depression, sadness, anxiety, all these things, if we learn to recognize them when they're small enough, we can stop them from blowing up into the big problems. But on top of that, they're telling us something is wrong. It never ceases to amaze me why people will take their car in for service when the red light comes on the dashboard of their car. But when the red light comes on the dashboard of their life, they ignore it.
Mhm.
Don't ignore it. Just like with my hand on the stove, the more you ignore it, the more likely things are going to get louder, angrier, and maybe more painful. At least that's my current understanding. So take it for what it's worth, reinterpret it, reimagine it, make it your own, and live the life you're supposed to live.
Mm. Wow, thank you. Very inspirational. So this brainwave entrainment, it can help us. It actually stabilizes the brain waves, stabilizes the state of the brain so that the mind can come in, that the information can come in, that we can be open. And it seems like it gets out those denser thoughts that keep looping. So this brings up neuroplasticity and all of it, which that could be a whole separate conversation. But that's the science behind this, is that we can change our brain. And that's what you did in your life. And
Yes.
so brainwave entrainment and the programs that you create, how does this, how does it apply to, okay, the topic of our show, access the secrets to personal wealth? How can we build personal wealth or eliminate self-doubt or get really creative in our world with brainwave entrainment? And you're welcome to talk about your special offer too. You've got the
Thank
quantum
you.
mind method, but how can we use brainwave entrainment for personal wealth, for example?
So every belief we have creates neurochemistry. If your chemistry is creating a sense of lack, creating a sense of Joe is rich and I'm poor,
Yes.
and I'm just not trying hard enough, or I don't have enough faith, or I'm not taking enough action, or whatever your belief system is, it's holding you back because you're creating it, you're thinking it. See, human beings are funny. We think we're smart. Because we think we're smart, when we come to a conclusion, we just believe it mindlessly. We don't ask questions. I ask questions all the time. I think you should too. So if you're having these negative thoughts, ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like this? I went through most of my life poor and broke because I thought people with money were bad people. I almost used the A word, but people were bad people. I didn't want to be a bad person. So, hey, I didn't have money. Isn't that funny? But that showed me that I have incredible power. All my friends have money. All my friends have success. All my friends have this. I don't. Why not? Because I'm just as powerful as they are. The difference is I was putting my power towards proving how right I am that people with money are bad people and people without money are good people. I made my own bed, so to speak, and I had to sleep in it. But I changed that. Lately, I've been of the view that I want business partners. I'm tired of spending money for things that don't get me results. So I've decided I want business partners now, and that's what I'm going to do. I want to attract influencers. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, I'm now in talks with 15 groups and organizations who want to work with me and not charge me a dime.
Ah,
Okay. Not a dime. Influencers, a customer of mine who I help, people say you shouldn't be helping her for free. This is like 2 years ago or so. I helped her on a few conversations on the phone for free. Didn't charge her a dime just because that's who I am. Now, as I get busier, I'm going to have to start charging people if they want me to coach them. But I'm not really a coach, so I don't know why they would want me to coach them in the first place. But she called me just a few days ago, last week. My son is an influencer on YouTube and on TikTok, and he's got like millions and millions of followers. And he was asking me, I want to make my music more meaningful. I want to make it more. I mean, and this guy's worked with Madonna, so he's a big shot. I want to make a difference. And she said, well, I know this guy who does this, and he was really helpful for me. Maybe he can help you too. So we talked. I'm going over to his place. He happens to live about an hour drive away. So I'm going over to his place next week and we're going to figure out a way to work together. So me, who has no influence, no followers, I'm going to be exposed to 25 million of them. Why? Because I put my intentions out and I took inspired action when I felt I needed to in order to manifest what I wanted to manifest. Don't expect things to manifest overnight. Most of these things that are happening now for me, 2 or 3 years in the making,
Mhm.
looking like I'm wasting my time, most of it. But you know what they say, hindsight is 2020, right? And now that I'm looking back on all these possibilities and potentials, it's obvious to me that all these times that people were telling me you're wasting time, you're wasting money, you're wasting yourself, they didn't understand. Just like the Tony Robbins idea, don't judge me based on the suit I'm wearing. Judge me based on what I'm doing and what I'm saying and what I'm thinking. If you have to judge me at all, I mean, I don't think I need to judge you and I don't think you need to judge me. But we're brought up to do these things. But I believe that if I have a thought, and this is why I have all these different techniques I'm developing and I've already developed, if I have a thought, it's possible. That's why I had the thought. Doesn't matter what law says or the law of this or the law of that says. It doesn't matter what scientists say. It doesn't matter what experts say. If I have a thought, there's a reason for it. And I've been able to come up with ways that defy logic that work because of that. I'm attracting the right people now because I put the information out and I refused to believe in the drama from other people and their truths. If that's how they want to live, if that's their happiness and they're happy, I'm happy for them. But I am not them. And I am done. 40 years of being depressed is enough. I
Mhm.
used the quantum mind method when it was in its earlier rendition called quantum mind power to bring myself back from the abyss, to dig myself out of the hole. All I did was I ended up listening 3 times a day. That's all I did with the intention that my brain is going to open itself up and see opportunities. And when I see opportunities, to actually take action. You know, we live in a world, or I lived in a world, where just having good thoughts wasn't enough. I actually had to take action. And when I took the inspired action, that's what made all the difference. Now, I felt a lot of resistance initially to take that action, but quantum mind method helped me to deal with that again because it made me realize that if I'm standing in a pool in the shallow end and you, Lauren, say, "Hey, Morry, it's dinner, your favorite food, come and get it." Well, if I'm standing still, I don't feel resistance. But I go, "Oh, favorite food?" I start trying to run through the water. There's a ton of resistance, but I'm still moving. And that's what it's all about. Resistance is not a bad thing. Resistance shows you you're moving. If resistance tells you don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute, great. Don't do that. If it says don't drive your car into a brick wall, definitely listen to it. But if it tells you to make a phone call, or it tells you to do some research, or it tells you to take out a patent, those are things you need to be listening to. We cannot sit around in our lives and, you know, cry about opportunities that we're not getting when we are getting them, but we're just choosing not to act on them. We have all the power in the world. I don't believe, and again, I shouldn't be saying we and I shouldn't be saying you, and I apologize for that. One of these days I'm going to get those words out of my language. But the bottom line that I have noticed is my current understanding says that I am misinterpreting resistance. Resistance is a good sign. It shows that I'm moving. That means I can now double down on it. I need to take action. And even if that action doesn't turn out the way I expected or I wanted, it's still valuable because it taught me something. That's the trick. Learn, be interested. Don't accept things. Like if someone says something to you and it gets your back up, it makes you nervous, don't listen to them. Smile, say thank you because you want to be polite. You don't want to cause problems. But in your mind, la di da di da di da di da. And that's what listening, that's what lying down and putting these things on has done for me. It's allowed me to, okay, I'm going on all these tangents. I used to wait for someone to stop talking. Now, if you're waiting for me to stop talking, good luck. You'll probably go to sleep first. But I would wait for people to stop talking just so I could tell them how wrong they are and explain to them why I'm right. Now I listen. It doesn't matter if I agree with them or not, it makes no difference. I listen because if they're talking to me or I'm around them while they're talking, there's a message for me. That's what I accept now. Whether I agree with what they're saying or not makes no difference at all. I'm always learning because I realize there's nothing that's a coincidence. I'm around these people for a reason. They are saying what they're saying for a reason, and it's within my ear because I need to pick something up from this. Please, if you do nothing else, start listening. And even if people are making you nervous, listen even more because they're probably pushing a button. And if there's a button to push, there's something that you can do to make yourself better. That's why the button is there. And listening to these recordings has changed my life. It's changed thousands of other lives. Like I said, doctors use it now to help their patients. I even have a dental program that you can use while you're in the waiting room before a procedure and during the event as well. When I was using it, because when I was seriously depressed, you can imagine I wasn't taking very good care of my body or my teeth. And I finally started feeling better. I went to a dentist. I was bleeding like a waterfall. I started listening to this recording that I created for dental procedures, and the doctors couldn't believe the difference. The blood flow was like cut in half, and the gums were still in bad shape. The teeth were still in bad shape. Everything was in bad shape. But my bleeding was much better under control because I believe my stress levels were so much lower that I wasn't pumping the blood through. The blood pressure was lower. Because the blood pressure was lower, there wasn't as much blood flowing through, less blood to come through. It made their job easier, made me feel better. It's all about you. My work is just a tool. If it sits on your phone or your computer and gathers cyber dust, it's not going to help you. The bottom line is you help yourself always. Even if I have the best information in the world, even if Lauren has the best information in the world, even though whoever gives you a pill and says, take this pill and you'll live to be 150, you'll be happy your whole life, you'll know everything you need to know. If you don't take the pill, it's not going to help you. The minute you take the pill, it's all you, not me, not the creator, nothing at all. It's all you. Please understand that. You are the secret sauce. You are the key to your own kingdom. Stop looking, like Lauren said it brilliantly before. Don't look outside for your answers. Look inside. I can't tell you how many times I've been looking for my blue light glasses and I've been wearing them. Where are they? Where are they? Because I'm looking out here, right? I'm wearing them. How many times have you looked for your glasses or you look for your car keys or you look for something else and they're in your hand? Look inside. That's where your answers are. And even if you get inspired from outside, the answer is still inside. Anyway, I apologize. I got very moved by
No,
by all
thank
of
you
this.
for that. Your words are really good and they resonate with us.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. So people are going to want to work with you and work with your method. And you've got a link here on this webpage. It's the Quantum Mind Method. And we've got a few more moments left. So share with us how we work with it. What's involved with this? What do we get? And how do we work with it? How do we listen to it? Like you said, 3 times a day. We can't overdo it, or can we? Tell us those details.
Okay, so you can't overdo it, but 3 times a day seems to be the sweet spot. I would suggest people start off with once, see how they're doing in a day or two. As long as they're okay, moving forward, adding, adding, adding. You don't listen all at once. So you might listen in the morning, then in the afternoon, then in the evening. Ordinary stereo headphones or bone conduction headphones, you close your eyes, comfortable volume, lay back with head support, or sit with head support. And that's pretty much all you have to do. There's a lot of recordings, But you don't have to get intimidated by that because I have a universal listening protocol, which basically says rotate through all the recordings. It's like doing a little bit of exercise on your pecs, a little bit on your abs, a little bit on your torso, a little bit on your core. That's the kind of thing. And you just keep rotating through the recordings. It's really that simple. Take inspired action when you're inspired. There is subliminal recordings there that you would play over an external speaker at a low volume. You can do that while you're doing anything pretty much. The brainwave entrainment recordings you should do with your eyes closed. You should do while you're not doing something else. But your brain, your mind can think whatever it wants. If you're inspired to think of something, think of it. I'm a firm believer that people who tell you it's time to, when you're meditating, that you should clear your mind, I think that is a massive mistake. Because if you're meditating properly, which you will be, especially if you're using this tech, thoughts will come to you. And telling them to go away is counterproductive. Let them do what they want to do. If they come, if they go, if they do this, if they do that, let them come. Your brain is processing. You are your own guru, not me or somebody else. So remember that. All we can do is inspire or try to inspire and offer advice. But ultimately, you need to do what's right for you. And ultimately, you're the only person who's going to know what's right for you. So there's various types. There's many systems involved in this. There's systems for sleep, systems for stress, anxiety, depression. There's augmented reality. There's something which I call VI recordings, visual image entrainment, which are 3-minute recordings you would watch on your phone with headphones for things like meditating, for things like sleeping, for things like just being happy. I have the happiness one I demo sometimes for people, and usually after about a minute, everybody's smiling. They just can't help but smile. It utilizes various technologies that I've developed, a certain color gamut that elicits a specific response neurologically in the brain, a beat pattern that elicits another response in the brain. All these things work in tandem to allow your brain to do whatever it needs to do to be right for you. See, this is one of the most important things about how I design my systems. They're not designed. I mean, after I told you that I can only speak for myself, so how can my system be so good for you if I've designed it? Because I'm obviously designing it based on myself. Well, I designed it based on myself because the way I designed it was to mimic you helping yourself. My work stimulates your brain and your mind in ways that allows you to help yourself. Even though it's my voice in some of these recordings, even though I've come up with the technology, it's designed to inspire your brain, your mind, your thoughts, your experience. It doesn't matter what I say. You're not learning from my experience. You're actually learning from your own experience. I'm not controlling your brain or your mind. You are. And that's the beautiful thing about this. You can move at your own pace. If you listen with intention, I've had people who spontaneously stopped smoking, stopped drinking. They didn't even try to. They just didn't want to do it anymore. I have people who had goals and they achieved their goals. I have testimonials from Quantum Mind Method that if you read them, you'd never know it was the same system because everybody gets their own benefits because everybody has their own brain. And it's your brain, your mind that does all the heavy lifting. You don't give away your power. You don't see it if you believe you gave it away. And that's why you don't use it. But you never give away your power. You never give away your ability. It's impossible to do that, I believe. So start looking within yourself and start realizing that with the help of a little technology, you can actually get rid of things holding you back. You can develop new things to help you. And it's all a matter of just being aware. Just be aware. Listen, this isn't music. You're not going to hear music. You're going to hear like, shh. That's 600 frequencies laid on top of each other. That is designed to act as a mask, but also to hyperactivate different regions of your brain to prepare it for the brainwave tones. The brainwave tones are going to sound like bop, 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 bop. Some people equate it to like a helicopter or an MRI machine, but it entrains your neurons, your brain cells to specific frequencies that allow for a state called LTP to occur. That's in all of my spoken word recordings that uses this particular frequency. LTP stands for long-term potentiation. your brain's ability to form neural pathways, memory pathways. There's other frequencies in the recordings that don't have my voice in it that are specifically geared to train your brain to act and react in different situations, different circumstances optimally. There are certain commonalities between brainwave activity in people. But that being said, the results of those commonalities vary like fingerprints with everybody. And your fingerprint will never get obscured using this technology. That's why I love it so much. It helps me. It can help you to help yourself. It can help anybody to help themselves. And one of the things I love especially is it can be used by people who need it, and it can also be used by the caregivers. It's not a prescription. It's not a medicine that you can only let the person who's prescribed use. Anyone can use this. I have health caregivers and caregivers for Alzheimer's patients and for elderly who claim to sleep better. They do a better job. They're easier to be happy and level headed because they're using these recordings regularly to allow themselves to have more of their own energy free. They get better quality sleep. They're just feeling better. All of these things happen not because I'm brilliant and not because I created the most amazing program in the history of humankind. It's because you have already the most amazing technology that's ever been developed by humans. And it's not developed in a factory. It's developed naturally through evolution, through, just nature. Your brain has everything it needs. And the quantum mind method just helps you to access it. You go into a room and you move a piece of furniture and you see a door you never saw before. That's what this does. It moves the furniture around so you can see the doors. You can see the options.
Seeing the potential, seeing the opportunities, and taking inspired action.
Yeah.
This is we're seeing there's lots of technology coming out, brainwave technology. Morry, you're doing an incredible job of bringing forward these methods. It allows us enhanced awareness. It allows us to get out of our own way. We hear that so often. It's like, well, what does that mean? So it's eliminating the belief systems that we have. It's like dissolving, it's opening us up to the higher mind, to the inspiration. And I'm going to venture to say it's allowing our higher selves to speak through, because it's the quantum field of information where we are all connected. And that's allowing us to process new information. And that's such a beautiful way to be. And it's a beautiful time to be on the planet. You are literally changing the medical field as well. And so that really is wonderful. And the work that you're doing with Alzheimer's patients and all of it, it's needed right now. In these past few years, mental health has become in the forefront of many people's minds. And this is a beautiful tool for that, as you've witnessed in your own life. So I want to direct everyone to check out the link that's right here on this webpage for your special offer, the Quantum Mind Method. That's going to take them to a page that explains exactly what they get and more about it. And people can sign up and get immediate access to this. It's so beautiful that I see a new world. I see a world where there is no war. If everyone is calmed down in this way, free and liberated from belief systems because we're open to the oneness that we all are, that's a new world and it's beautiful. I think that's why we all incarnated at this time, is to bring this newness, this new way of being into our lives, onto the planet. So you're doing incredible work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again. Everyone, check this out. You'll know if it resonates with you. You can put it on in your office. You can put it on in your home. You can put it on so that your pets and your loved ones are in this field. And that's really beautiful. So, Morry, thank you. I wanted to have you close with any final thoughts for us today. Thank you.
So, okay. Well, first of all, happiness is a choice.
Mhm.
So choose to be happy because that's really, it sounds simplistic, but it's true. If you're having a hard time with that, simple exercise. Spend every day looking for 10 things you're grateful for.
Mhm.
Don't write them down, but at the end of the night, when you go to bed, have a pad of paper and a pen handy, write down 3 times each 10 things you remember that you were grateful for. It could be anything. A leaf falling to the ground, a baby crying or cooing in a carriage. Makes no difference as long as you experience it. Write it down 3 times each, 10 things. Then you lie down, you go to sleep. Wake up in the morning, write down the same 10 things again, 3 times each. And then that day, you're looking for 10 new things. Now, it can be the same as the day before, but make sure that if it is, that it actually occurred that day. As long as it had occurred that day, you can still use it. At the end of a week, just look at the page you've written on. You don't have to read it, just look at it. As you build up more pages and as you do this for more days in a row, you're going to find that you're looking for good things in your life to happen instead of bad things. Going to bed at night, writing these things down, you're creating neural pathways. Handwriting creates neural pathways. Handwriting good things creates neural pathways to good thoughts, I believe. So think of it. You go to sleep at night. The last thing you did was lay down a whole lot of new roads to positive thoughts and things that made you feel good. You wake up in the morning, you start your day writing these things down. You're starting your day with these positive thoughts too. Then during the day, you know you have to remember 10 things. You can't write them down until nighttime, but you have to remember 10, which means you're going to spend a lot of the day looking for things that make you happy, that make you smile. In 2 weeks, I would be surprised if your life isn't totally different.
Wow, I can feel that, and so can others. And now we're excited. And
Yeah.
we can see how that changes our brain. That's the neuroplasticity right there.
Yes.
Retraining our brain. Okay. And I can sense that people watching this know the heart-centeredness, that now because we're looking for the good things, we're looking for love in all the right places. That is wonderful. I'm doing that right now, and I have a huge smile on my face. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. What a powerful way to close this conversation and this presentation. And a beautiful tip that when people work with your program, that's going to change the world significantly, not just the world, but individual lives. But yet this tool that you left us with is really valuable and appreciated as well. Thank you, Morry Zelcovitch. What a beautiful time today. I want to commend you on the work that you're doing in the world from that scientific and spiritual perspective. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody out there. I appreciate your energy. And I want you to be happy, happy, happy because I'm selfish. And if you're happy, I'll be happy too.
We want everyone to be happy.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for this bright light. You can see the power that you have in changing your own life and changing the world as well. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.